It's a new day, and that means new stories from Ocean Story. Let's begin. I have lived with my wife Gianna all my life. We have been close since we were teenagers, and we got married at the age of 22. We now have a daughter, Valentina, who is 8 years old. 4 months ago, my friend came to our house. At that time, my wife went to visit her family. My friend, my daughter, and I had a lot of fun together. In our city, there is a wonderful water park where we went almost every week. My daughter Valentina, like all small children at her age, can behave badly. She was no exception, and it was always a bit difficult with her. Valentina is very moody and can behave badly in public. She is also a bit clumsy and slow. One day, my friend Austin was attacked by bandits. I got a call from the hospital. Since it was morning, I wanted to do everything quickly. The caller said that Austin had suffered many injuries. I had no desire to walk across the city with my daughter in the morning. I called my aunt, who could stay with me in Austin. However, she refused because she had important plans of her own for the morning. My panic level started to rise. My friend Austin knew only me in this city, and I was the only one who could help him. I had to make a decision very quickly. I knew that Valentina would start to get cranky if I took her with me. My aunt called me and told that her nephew now lives not far from my house. I didn't know Santiago very well because I only see him on family holidays, but he's not a bad guy. I haven't heard any bad things about him from anyone. My daughter played her childhood games with him last Christmas. Santiago is at university now, so he was around me. My aunt gave me Santiago's number, and I called him. Even though it wasn't even 8 in the morning, Santiago picked up the phone. I was emotional and quickly started explaining what had happened. Santiago said he was sorry that my friend was in trouble. I could tell he was worried by what I said. I did say a lot of things that were unnecessary. Santiago said that he had no problem sitting with Valentina, but if I did him one favor, he wanted me to pay him money for his time. He was saving up for a new phone, so he really wanted to be paid for his work. Of course, I knew that family favors should be appreciated. But when someone sets specific amounts and conditions for this action, it made me a little angry. I said, "Can we resolve this issue later? Because time is very important now." Santiago said, "If we don't solve anything now, then I should find someone else for my needs." I was really in a tizzy. I have never had to deal with this guy before. I did not expect such words from Santiago at all. I was left with no choice. Everyone who could help me with my daughter Valentina ignored my request. So 10 minutes later, Santiago came to my house. I quickly took a taxi and went to my friend Austin. The whole situation lasted a little less than 40 minutes. During this time, I went through a lot of stress. After I visited my friend and gave some testimony, I decided to meet my aunt in a local cafe. She was sitting with her friend. We talked a bit about life and relatives. I told my aunt that her nephew had acted somewhat impudently in a critical situation. My friend Austin was in critical condition, and her nephew Santiago started pretending to be a respectable person and demanding money. My aunt's friend intervened in the conversation. She said it was not as bad as I thought. Santiago knows the value of his time, so he had the right to ask for money for that time. After all, he could have been sleeping or doing his morning chores. Instead, Santiago agreed to be with Valentina. He just needed some kind of compensation. I couldn't agree with her opinion, so we had a discussion about it. I have no problem paying for someone's work. It's just when it's done with such brazenness and at critical moments. For me, this is not adequate. My parents taught me that I should help my family without thinking about the benefits of these actions. But Santiago was a man with different ideas. For Santiago, it didn't matter that there was a non-standard situation going on, in which he needed to respond quickly to a request for help. In the end, I asked Santiago to help me stay with my daughter. It wasn't because I had to go to a resort or work. After it was over, I paid Santiago for his valuable work, but I told him that with his desire to make money from all the people he sees, he will fall into the abyss soon. No one would want to have a relationship with him because he uses people for his own benefit. Santiago was offended by me. Am I wrong in my thoughts? Maybe I shouldn't have said anything to Santiago, but just paid him? Jordan, man, it's normal for someone to ask to be paid for their work. Maybe you think you are family, and Santiago should have been with your daughter for nothing. But that's not true at all. Santiago could have turned you down, just like other people, but he agreed to help, even if you had paid him $70 for it. Isn't babysitting a responsible job? You're being too harsh on this one. Isla, you were in a bad moral state at the time, so you didn't assess the situation well. I am very sorry that your friend was attacked, but there is nothing wrong with Santiago asking for money. You can understand him, because you had your own needs and Santiago had his. If you had someone who worked as a babysitter, you wouldn't even think about it. Why should I pay money to this person? Cooper, I have the same brother. He's always looking to capitalize on any help. It doesn't matter that you could have helped him a few days ago. It suited him if he did something and immediately got something for it. When my mom asked my brother and me to come over to help her clean the garage, my brother said he would only do it if he was paid for every hour he worked. I hate it when people do that. Eliana, I have never understood this attitude towards relatives. Like you're my relative, so you have to help me for nothing. And if one of the relatives asks for payment for their work, they can be perceived as a greedy, impudent person. I believe that help from any person should be paid for at the person's request. My parents taught me to appreciate other people's work, so shouldn't say that Santiago did wrong. You are the only one who did not do a good thing. You need to change your mind and appreciate someone else's work. That way you will be respected by other people. Ivy, how did a man like you get custody of Brayden? If the child wants to be with his mother, and the mother is sane, then there is no reason for them not to have visits. The only reason is your stupid feelings. Quinn may have acted badly towards you in the past, but people change and become more serious. It is clear from Quinn's behavior that her feelings for her son are stronger than she thought. Quinn was involved in her son's life, even though those gifts could not replace her presence and attention. But still, she did not ignore your son's holidays. That's why you need to give them permission to communicate and not interfere in any way. Next story. This year, we wanted to celebrate Christmas with our parents and a small circle of people. Now I live with my girlfriend. We are getting married in 1 year. I also have a son who is now 14 years old. We have been living in a small house for about 4 years. My ex-wife, Quinn, is not in a relationship with our son, Brayden. She has made a new life for herself with a man named Roman. They now have 1 child and live 30 minutes away from us by train. Quinn was never interested in her son Brayden's life. She had time for everything but him. It was because of this that I developed a certain distaste for her. In fact, I'm very glad that Brayden has no contact with Quinn. My new girlfriend is doing a good job with my son. Anyway, we have not had contact with Quinn's family, and she has not had contact with us. The only time I spoke to Quinn was at Christmas. This is the only holiday that Quinn always gave a gift for her son. Sometimes on my son Brayden's birthday, my ex would send some small packages with gifts. A few months ago, we crossed paths as a family at a local children's entertainment center. My son was surprised to see his real mom, whom he hadn't seen in 6 years. I had to give them time to talk. To my surprise, Quinn was very happy to see her son. When there was 1 week left before Christmas, we sat down and had dinner as a family. Out of the blue, Brayden asked if he could go to the Quinn family's Christmas celebration. I immediately told my son that those people were strangers to us. We have almost nothing in common with them, so it would not be right for you to go to them. Brayden was very upset by my answer. Then he asked if we could invite them to our house if he can't go to his birth mom. My girlfriend said, even though she is your birth mom, she hasn't spent a day raising you. The conversation started to get very tense. No one wanted to concede their rightness. Brayden began to say that because of our own conflicts, we were preventing him from building relationships with his real family. I was very unhappy with his tone, so I asked Brayden to be quiet for a while. After all, he had already said too much at lunch. I calmly began to explain to Brayden that his mother could not be in my house after she decided to leave us, and being around Quinn was not pleasant. She acts like nothing ever happened, like we're friends who rarely talk. That's why I don't want to let her spend Christmas with me. I'm not going to stop my son from seeing her. Brayden said, I just don't want to think about his feelings. I only care about myself and my girlfriend Neva. And now that he has the opportunity to have a normal mom, we don't let him go to her. My girlfriend was upset by my son's words. Neva couldn't stand it and went outside to avoid saying anything else. Brayden was stubborn as a sheep. He started saying that if we didn't let him go to Quinn's for Christmas, he'd be out of the house. Then Brayden would lock himself in his room and stay there for the whole holiday. I told him he wouldn't do that. He got really angry, so he ran to his room. Meanwhile, I went to Neva to comfort her. The next day, I went to my son's room and heard him talking to someone on the phone. Brayden was actively complaining about me and saying that I was an asshole. Because of his own problems, was not letting others build a life. I didn't go in and say anything to him because I would have confirmed his words. A few hours later, I got a call from Quinn. She started scolding me for not letting Brayden be around her. We started fighting on the phone. I was really pissed off by this situation. I told Quinn that she had no right to show up and demand attention after so many years of ignoring her son. So I hung up and never spoke to her again, and I punished my son and put him under house arrest for his bad behavior. Maybe I acted like a jerk and a scoundrel, but what could I do? I'm very angry with Quinn. She can't do this to our son. It's like she's been taking care of Brayden his whole life and I'm just getting in the way. Even, your son is right. You are not letting him build a relationship with his mom because you are resentful of her. That's not really any of your business. How dare you give your son an ultimatum? Or are you sitting at our house for Christmas with Neva? Or you sit in your room all Christmas because you want to go to your mom Quinn's. What is this? Do you want your son Brayden to hate you for the rest of his life? What's wrong with a mother and son talking and being together? You're a stupid sheep who wants to control everything. Even, I think it is very strange to punish your son because he wants to see his biological mother. I'm not sure that the narrator is mentally healthy. You can't transfer your personal feelings to other people. It's completely absurd. I hope that when the narrator's son grows up, he will decide for himself whom he can visit. Now I want to tell a different story. My brother is not really my family. My parents adopted Ezekiel when he was 2 years old. Now we are both 22 years old. Our relationship is a bit raw. We don't have heart-to-heart conversations or talk about anything. Ezekiel just talks to me and I talk to him. My parents always wanted us to be like brothers. We didn't manage to become that close, but we just have a friendly relationship. For some time I worked with Ezekiel in the same company. Then I found new friends for myself, and my half-brother Ezekiel stayed with his old group of friends. When it was Ezekiel's birthday, there was one moment. He decided not to invite me to his birthday party. I can't say I was very upset because my time is not that free, but the fact that Ezekiel did not invite me was strange. My parents said that he wanted to do that. At a time when my brother Ezekiel was celebrating his birthday, my friends invited me to go to the house of a rich friend of mine to celebrate with them. We had a great time. We had a lot of fun and talked about the future. And there was a lot of talk about the old company. I had a great weekend with my friends. It seemed to me that nothing could be bad these days. In the middle of the party, my aunt called me and asked me to put my brother on the phone because he was unreachable. I told her that I wasn't celebrating with Ezekiel and that I was out with my friends. She was a bit outraged by this because she loves Ezekiel. He is adopted and she feels a bit sorry for the boy. When I got home, my aunt was waiting for me. A few words about my aunt Sadie. She has no children of her own and is 42 years old. Sadie tries to show a lot of love to my brother Ezekiel. Every time she comes to our house, most of her conversations were with Ezekiel. She has a kind of heightened maternal instinct. Sadie used to give my brother 3 times better gifts than me for the holidays. If Sadie could buy a new phone for his birthday, she would give me a book that she would never read herself. Sadie found her favorite in my brother Ezekiel. At first, I was a little annoyed, but then I didn't care. I was sitting in the kitchen when Sadie came up to me. She started asking me about my vacation and what I was doing. I had to tell her a little bit about the weekend. A little while later, Sadie started to say how upset my brother was that I wasn't at his birthday party. She was trying to bluff me and make me feel bad. But I told her that my brother Ezekiel didn't even invite me to his birthday. Sadie said that this was impossible. I was just lying to her face It was the truth, I told her. Sadie stood by her words, claiming that my brother Ezekiel would never do this to me. After all, I am his own brother and have always been there for him. It bothered me a little that she thought Ezekiel was my own brother. Sadie says that my brother tried to call me on the weekend and invite me to the holiday, but I decided to ignore his request. I told her that it never happened. We started to fight loudly. My parents came into the kitchen to sort out the conflict. My parents listened to what was happening. My mom started saying that my aunt was not lying. Ezekiel realized that I was missing from the party, so he tried to call me several times, but I never picked up the phone. Ezekiel thought I was angry with him because he hadn't invited me to the party. Ezekiel was upset about that, and the celebration itself really didn't go well. My phone didn't work all weekend. I didn't even see the missed text from my brother, but my family didn't believe my story because I picked up the phone from my aunt on the weekend. Now everyone in the family thinks I'm ignoring my brother and don't want to talk to Ezekiel. My brother is upset that he has lost my respect. My aunt says I'm a jerk for ruining Ezekiel's life. My parents are unhappy that their children can't get along. I feel very guilty, or rather, I was made to feel guilty about what happened. But my actual guilt is not there at all. If only Ezekiel had invited me right away, not in the middle of the celebration, then there would have been no quarrel. Sadie wants me to apologize to my brother. Xavier, why is everyone making the narrator of this story the one to blame? If Ezekiel didn't want to invite him to his birthday party, what can you possibly have to say about it? Your aunt is out of her mind with her favoritism. No one should start loving any of the children more or less. The consequences are that there are constant quarrels in the family. Someone will always be better or worse. Piper, if your brother Ezekiel has been adopted since he was a baby, does that mean that others have to play with him for the rest of his life? Why doesn't anyone believe you? There is only one explanation. All your family loves your brother more than anything else. They don't care about your feelings. Your aunt thinks she has the right to lecture you. Your parents knew very well that your brother Ezekiel did not want to invite you to the party in the first place. So why are they standing up and defending him now? You did not do anything wrong to your brother to be treated like this. You are the only one who needs to apologize. Chose, after that, if I were the narrator, I would have lost all respect for my aunt and parents. It's not adequate when they try to make you the culprit in a situation in which even you did not participate. Your brother should be ashamed that his behavior caused you to suffer. Your reputation will not be easy to restore, so let it be. I hope you are not upset with them. Lydia, I once experienced a somewhat similar situation. My friend had been thinking about inviting me to her wedding for a long time, but she still didn't want to invite me. Since I had the weekend off, I decided to go on vacation to my parents' farm. I wanted to be alone with myself. When I was there all day, I picked up my phone to watch a video. I saw that my friend had called 13 times in the last 6 hours. When I got back to the city, she was furious with me. Since then, she hasn't been my friend anymore, and her family thinks that I deliberately ignored her invitations. In such situations, it is important to get rid of such people who will tell you that you are to blame. My next story. I have been living with my wife Alexa for 17 years. We have a son, Jace, who is 13 years old. Our whole family has a problem with being overweight. I'm really tired of having trouble walking down the street. I can't move freely uphill for a long period of time. My nutritionist told me that the whole family should give up eating too many calories and take care of themselves. I took his advice very strongly. That day I sat down to talk to my wife Alexa. I told her that starting next week, we would no longer buy high-calorie foods. This meant that we would have to give up all sweets for a long time. Also, we shouldn't think about some meat dishes for the next year. The first week was difficult for all of us. We hadn't done such exams for ourselves in our entire lives. After the first week of this diet, my wife started complaining. She said that not having enough sweets made her feel bad. My wife Alexa cooks most of the meals. Now it's really hard for her to resist going to the store to buy something sweet or meat. It's also hard for my son to refuse, but he endures it because he wants to become a strong man. I don't force anyone in the family. I just buy groceries for the house. when I go home after work, so my family becomes somewhat hostage to my decision. I had more than one conversation with Alexa about this diet. It's quite difficult to give up sweets and meat overnight. Alexa began to stage a hungry rebellion. Alexa said that if I didn't buy something sweet once a week, she would not eat anything all day, but she can go to the store and buy whatever she wants. Sometimes I don't understand my wife. A few days later, Alexa started saying that she didn't like my choices. After all, I didn't conduct a survey among family members. I just said one night that we would now eat with restrictions. She doesn't like this meal plan anymore. Alexa wants to eat fast food again and drink liters of Coca-Cola every day. My decision limits her freedom of action. Alexa says that we shouldn't give up all the junk food so abruptly. Alexa once told me that we should remove something from our diet once a month. If we do as she says, then our weight loss will take about 10 years. For me, her words sound like some kind of childish excuse. It's just as hard for me to give up the delicious chicken from the oven that we ate every Thursday. It's hard to give up sugary drinks and my favorite candy. But if we don't, we could end up with a disability after 5 years of this kind of eating. And my son will be big and clumsy. Our conversations with Alexa every night were getting absurd. Alexa even called my mom, saying that I wasn't giving them enough money for the groceries the family needed. I had no idea that giving up sweets would be so difficult. Eventually, I couldn't stand these conversations about food. Again, I was not restricting anyone's food choices. Alexa just didn't want to go to the store to buy what she wanted. Alexa kept asking me to buy something to take home. So now I gave her a little more money so that Alexa would be more willing to go to the store. Let her take responsibility for her own life. I wanted my wife and son to be an example of a healthy family. My son is still on a diet and hardly ever gives in to sweets. My wife Alexa has stopped being angry with me. My friends motivate me to continue. That week, I signed up with my son Jace to go to the gym. My wife continues to eat whatever she wants. Has anyone had the experience of giving up their favorite food? Jameson, my brother, and I wanted to become more athletic a few years ago. It was very difficult for me to give up fast calories. In fact, I even hid from my brother when I ate candy bars. It's very difficult. I always wanted to eat the big menu at McDonald's. My brother helped me keep going for a long time. But in the end, I didn't last even 6 months. The issue of healthy eating is very difficult for some people. You shouldn't give up everything at once. After a short time, you won't be able to stand it, and you will eat something you shouldn't. Josephine, why did you decide for your family that you would only eat healthy food from now on? If you felt that you didn't like your weight and lifestyle, then it was your idea. You shouldn't have forced yourself on your family. That from now on we only eat healthy food. If you've been eating whatever you wanted all your life, you shouldn't argue with your wife about food, especially if Alexa has been cooking most of the time. You should be kinder to her. Leonardo, dude, you're a great dad and husband to your family. If I had a dad like that, I wouldn't be so clumsy and big now. I know from experience that if you don't start taking care of yourself in time, it will only get worse. You might not feel any problems with your weight until you're 25, but after that, you'll start feeling new pains in your body. My knees hurt. It feels like someone is hitting them with a sledgehammer every hour. After the age of 30, my back pain starts to get worse. I feel like I've been carrying bags of cement on my back all day. Your wife probably wants to wash the pain down with a glass of Coca-Cola. Emery, in fact, 2 people are being selfish here. You and your son suffered from your snark. Such moments are really worth discussing and only then acting. Otherwise, there will be constant quarrels and troubles in the family. A story that really surprised me. I have never had experience in raising a child, but my husband agreed to take the child from the orphanage. There were children there who were registered. Their parents still have a chance to get their children back, but only if they behave. We took in one boy, but not on a permanent basis. Bryson could choose to stay with us or his old family. We established contact with Bryson's parents. It turned out that they did not care much about their son, but since the boy has 2 brothers and 2 sisters there, he did not want to leave them. We took Bryson to our home for 10 days a month so that he could understand what it would be like to live with us. After a while, he seemed to get used to my husband and me. Bryson stayed with us for 15 days a month, but he often said he wanted to go home. Bryson was very happy to come to our house with my husband. We were far from rich, but we had a nice house with good facilities. That was clearly not enough for Bryson. I often noticed that Bryson had a sad expression on his face. I asked my husband to talk to him about it. Bryson is upset that his biological parents don't think about children at all. For Bryson's parents, children are just a formality. That is why he is registered with the Child Welfare Service. This made me and my husband very upset. How can people be so cruel to children? So we thought with my husband and told Bryson that we could apply for guardianship. He is not a bad boy and there are no problems with him, although his parents were not involved in his upbringing. Yesterday, Bryson's mom started to go crazy. She called my husband and demanded that her son be returned to her. We refused her request. It was as if she was out of her mind. Bryson didn't want to be with her, but he really wanted to get to his house to be with his family. I was very worried about him. His mom was not the kind of woman who drinks, but her behavior was very strange. I told Bryson that if he stayed with us now, my husband and I would give him a tablet. He was very happy about this offer, but still, Bryson was reaching out to his brothers and sisters. Bryson's mom started calling every hour, asking when we would bring her son home. My husband replied that it was not going to happen. She was very angry and yelled into the phone that we had kidnapped her son. I feel very sorry for the other children in that family. Did we do the right thing by refusing to let Bryson's mother bring him home? Julia, I'm scared to think how the children are brought up in that family. Perhaps the yard dogs have more attention and love. It's a shame that you can't take all the children to your home. Given the circumstances you described, the children should be taken away from that family immediately. Bryson's parents should be deprived of their parental rights. Why would they have so many children if they can't take care of any of them? I hope Bryson's siblings find good families. Axel, why did the social services just turn a blind eye to this crazy family? All these poor children need to find decent families and not even give the old family a chance. It is so clear that they need the children to get Social Security, nothing more. It is very unfair when children are used as a method of subsistence. However, I was a little surprised when you decided to keep Bryson at home, offering him a tablet. It's clear that you just wanted to keep him out of those horrible conditions. In the future, don't use this method with children. You can reward them with something, but don't bribe them. There may be difficulties later.